Hello and welcome back to Alice Talks Football and welcome back to another live Manchester United news and transfer news update on the show. And today we're going to be talking about the Glazers. The United finances has come out. John Murtough's come out and said some things. Richard Arnold's come out and said some things. What's Manchester United's future? What's United's future with Ten Hag? And what have the Glazers just done? The finances coming out showing yet again the Glazers are leaving Ten Hag hung out to dry. And in today's video, we're going to talk about will Ten Hag last? Because I don't think any manager will last long at United with these owners in charge. They're an absolute disgrace. But guys, before I get into the live stream, I just want to say that this video is sponsored by the OneFootball app. There'll be a link in the description and a link pinned in the chat for you guys to go ahead and download the OneFootball app. It's a brilliant app, and if you do want to stay up to date with all the latest Manchester United news, football news, updates, and more, I'd highly recommend downloading the OneFootball app, because honestly, as you can see on the screen, we've got all our United news here. News about the dividends, 150 million lost this season, 33.6 million taken out in dividends. The debt has rose by 22% to 514.9 million. Bear in mind, we didn't have any debt before the Glazers took over, and absolutely rinsing this club. And we're going to get into that in today's video. So please do smash that like button and of course subscribe down below, because let's get these disgraceful fucking owners out our club. Honestly, hashtag Glazers out. Big up Gaz in the chat. Big up everybody in the chat as well. Smash that like button for Glazers out. And let's get into the video. But I just wanted to say it is sponsored by the OneFootball app. Now, I am livid. I am absolutely livid, because these Glazers, they do not care about United. And I'm going to do in my live stream tomorrow, and I will talk about it now. There's potential that a new rule could be coming out which prevent owners from taking dividends out of the club. Because of the Glazers, governing bodies are discussing a new rule which could potentially stop owners taking dividends out of the club. However, I'm waiting to find more information about that, the reliability of that report and all of that, because it's only something I read 10 minutes ago. So we will discuss that in tomorrow's live stream. But I want to get into some statistics for you guys. I'm going to get into something that's probably going to want to make your blood boil, okay? I'll tell you what these Glazers have done. I'll tell you what they've done. I'll tell you this now. We're going to talk about how they're absolutely going to do over Ten Hag. So the Glazers are going to do over Ten Hag in the next 6 months. They've done over the fans and they're doing over the club. So let's talk about the first thing. Okay, can you see this on your screen? Smash that like button for Glazers out and big up everybody in chat. But on your screen, you'll see something. Manchester United's financial results for the year of 2022. So commercials obviously gone up by 11% because we signed fucking Ronaldo, obviously. Broadcasting has gone down 15.7% because who the fuck wanted to watch us play last season? We were horrific. Match day's obviously gone up 1,456% because you can have fans in the stadium, blah, 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 blah. You know, you couldn't have fans the last season. So, of course, that's gone up massively. But the total revenue has gone up 18%, and that's purely just because we can actually make money on match day. But the net debt has managed to get up 22%. And you're thinking, Alice, if the revenue had gone up 18% this year, why is the debt going up by 22.7%? Because the Glazers refuse to spend their own money and they borrow money. So when we buy Anthony, when we buy Casemiro, the Glazers thought, fuck, Jim Ratcliffe wants to buy United. That's what the Glazers thought. They thought, fuck, Jim Ratcliffe wants to buy the club. The fans are protesting for us out. Let's go and buy some players. And some fans are naive. And I don't realise when the Glazers buy players, they are borrowing the money to buy players and then putting more debt on the club. But the Glazers think some fans will just see that they're buying players, shut up and be why you Glazers out. And the thing that absolutely boils my blood is when rival fans go, oh, the Glazers spend money, why are you Glazers out? Like, United fans are so ungrateful because the money they spend, they borrow, which puts this club in more financial issues. They want to sell our TV rights and turn us into Barcelona, which would be disgraceful. And they also take all money out in dividends. £34 million this year in dividends. That is freaking horrific. And the debt has gone up because they weren't going to spend any money, and then they didn't want to spend any money, so they thought they'll buy some players to stop the protests, to stop the Jim Ratcliffe talk, and our debt has gone up by 22.7%. It's an absolute disgrace. The debt is going to get wiped out when Sir Jim comes in. And this is the thing. We've got to beg for Sir Jim to come in. Like, honestly, guys, we need Sir Jim Ratcliffe to come into United, because Ten Hag, I love Ten Hag. I think he's a fantastic manager. I've fully backed Ten Hag. But I sit here and I will say this now. Ten Hag will not last under the Glazer ownership. Ten Hag will not last at all under the Glazer ownership because they are going to hang him out to dry. They are going to cause Ten Hag issue after issue after issue. And I love Ten Hag. I want Ten Hag to succeed. And I want to get into this in a second. I'm going to show you up on my screen so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Ten Hag comes out after the Sheriff win, and Ten Hag comes out after the Sheriff win saying he wants investment in January. He wants to buy some players in January. Ten Hag saying he wants to look for players in January. Man United then come out with this PR report that if the right players there, they will spend money in January. But then today, Mr. Richard Arnold, Mr. John Murtough, they come out today with a big, interview because, it's dividends day when we find out how much money they took in dividends, 34 fucking million. And I'm just going to say this, I tweeted this earlier. Julian Alvarez would have cost us half the price. The Glazers could have halved their dividends and brought Rangnick Julian Alvarez, who we've been crying out for now, another person in tap. But no. Just, no, they don't care. But I want to get into Ten Hag basically saying he wants investments in January publicly, and John Murtough coming out in an interview saying we're focused on the summer. John Murtough literally goes, we're focused on the summer. Absolutely screwing Ten Hag over. Glazers absolutely screwing Ten Hag over. I love ERIK Ten Hag. And you know what? I say this about every Man United manager. ERIK Ten Hag, I think, is the best manager we got post Sir Alex, without a doubt. 100% say that because ERIK Ten Hag's everything I wanted at United. Great mentality, proven winner, attractive football. ERIK Ten Hag's the closest we can get to Pep. And in the modern game of football, ERIK Ten Hag is the best manager we could have got and the best manager we could have post Sir Alex Ferguson. 100%. But every single manager post Sir Alex Ferguson ends up not succeeding. Mourinho, brilliant manager, could not succeed at United, but was our most successful. Van Gaal, good manager, did not succeed. Moyes, look what he's doing now. Rangnick, look at his philosophy. Rangnick's doing really well for Austria. Now, Ten Hag, I've worried that the Glazers, and in fact, I'm not worried, I know if the Glazers are still here, they are going to absolutely shaft Ten Hag in 2023. It has been said that Ten Hag's budget will be a cut price budget in 2023 because of the price of Antony. Bear in mind, as I said, the reason Antony cost 100 million euros is not Ten Hag's fault. The reason Antony cost 100 million euros is because you idiot Glazers hired incompetent people like Murtough and Arnold to do the transfer business, and because they could have got Antony for 40 million, but they're incompetent and then went back 2 months later and had to spend 100 million, you're now taking out on Ten Hag and saying he's got 60 million less to spend next summer, when that is Murtough and Arnold's fault. So why don't you sack Murtough and Arnold, get proper people in, because then he would have saved that 60 fucking million and back Ten Hag next summer. They are going to shaft Ten Hag next summer. They are coming out saying they've made their plans for next summer and all of that. Well, Ten Hag gave them his plans in April. And did United follow his April plans when he gave them to them 3 months ahead? No. United only went in and followed his plans in the last few weeks of the transfer window because Jim Ratcliffe went public about wanting to buy the club. The pressure was on and they got battered 4-0 to Brentford. These board are absolutely going to screw Ten Hag over, and it's an absolute disgrace. I'm absolutely livid with them. I actually want to get into what they've done because I'm just sitting here waffling. But Sir Jim in, and obviously Glazers out, and honestly, did you see Moisey swearing in a press conference? It was hilarious. A reporter called him Moisey, and Moisey responded saying, Moisey, fucking hell, didn't think that we were that close. That's quite funny, to be fair. I love calling him Moisey. And as David says, guys, please do smash that like button. Please do subscribe down below and share the video. Alice's breath low Glazers out. Honestly, when I talk about the Glazers, I don't breathe. I don't breathe. They get me boiling. I don't bleed. What's going on with the takeover? Well, that's exactly what we want to talk about in today's video. We're going to talk about the takeover bid. I think tomorrow's video will be more dedicated to Jim Ratcliffe and what's going on with Jim Ratcliffe and all of that. And I think today's video is going to be solely focused on the Glazers, but we will get into it. The Glazers are terrible owners of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. I don't follow American football, but it's interesting to see. I feel like they put more effort in there, but I don't think they're good owners of anything as well. But hopefully Knighton's going to bid soon. There are reports of Knighton and Jim Ratcliffe preparing a bid. And will you think United will go for Oshman in January? Basically, John Murtough's come out today and basically confirmed United are shutting the bank books for 30 days in January. So honestly, let's get into some things. So I want to get into some tweets I saw that I liked because they were good tweets, obviously. They were anti-Glazer tweets. Tyrone Malacia on the bench against Poland. There's some little news going in. So obviously this was what I saw today. I love the username of this account. What a great username. Glazers piss off. What a great username. But they said 743 million in interest, 166 million in dividends. 55 million in director remuneration, 25 million in management fees, 465 million in Class A share sales, plus 147 million in debt repayments. They have total stolen 1.559 billion, and nearly 2 billion stolen. And all the debt we had, that didn't exist before the Glazers come in. We've also got to see this here. The debt is nearly 100 million a year. Our debt, our debt was 400 million last year. Our debt is now 500 million. Our debt has gone up 22%, nearly 100 million in the last year. And as United People TV said, cash stays pretty much the same. Glazers borrowed to pay our signings, borrowing as they always have and putting their extra debt on the club. They're borrowing money and putting the debt on the club. 33.6 million paid out in dividends too, including a delayed dividends from the previous year. 33.6 million they took out the club. And do you know what the thing is? And do you know what I'm going to talk about? And this is what I really want to get into. They, as in the fucking Glazer cunt faces, basically, they weren't going to spend in January. Remember, not January, summer. The Glazers had taken for 34 million. We're going to round up to 34 million because they've probably made it a bit lower than it is. The Glazers have taken £34 million out of United, but remember this. The Glazers were more than willing to absolutely do Ten Hag over with Arnautovic and Rabiot. They were sitting there as we lost 4-0 to Brentford, knowing they could do something about it and smiling with the £34 million they took out the club, which could have been invested in Ten Hag and could have been invested in the squad. If it was not for Sir Jim Ratcliffe going public about his interest to buy Manchester United, because remember, it's not a coincidence that in 24 hours, all of a sudden we've gone from about to sign Rabiot and Arnautovic to dropping them and going for Casemiro and Antony. It's not coincidence, is it? Or if it is a coincidence, it's a funny one. That they were willing to absolutely sit there and laugh at their £34 million they've stolen for us as we get battered 4-0 to Brentford and tell Ten Hag you can have Arnautovic and Rabiot. And then Jim Ratcliffe goes public about wanting to buy. Then the pressure comes on. Then they realise there's a protest and they must get a new signing in Casemiro to announce before the protest. Because remember this about the Casemiro signing. How come it took Manchester United 3, 4, 5 weeks to get Martinez over the line? How come it took us 5 weeks to get Eriksen over the line when he was a free player? How come it took us 3 weeks to get Malacia over the line, but we got Casemiro over the line in 48 hours? Because the Glazers deliberately bought Casemiro because they knew there was a protest versus Liverpool and they knew that Old Trafford could be empty, and they knew if they brought someone like Casemiro, then they could fill up the stadium, lower the protest, and all the attention would be on Casemiro's unveiling. Remember that. And they only did that to shut us fans. And the reason they do stuff like that is because the protests get to them. And if you need a sign to protest, if you need a sign to be Glazers out, the fact that they spend money, the fact that they brought Casemiro in for that protest, the fact that they've done all that shows they are impacted by the protest. And if we keep protesting with the pressure of Jim Ratcliffe, there is a way we can get them out. Because they are absolutely removing anti-Glazer banners from Old Trafford, which is an absolute disgrace. They are trying to silence us. They are trying to silence our thoughts. They are absolutely removing any anti-Glazer propaganda. Twitter accounts tweeting anti-Glazer stuff suspiciously getting removed. TikTok accounts with anti-Glazer content getting banned. Could be a coincidence. But remember, they took 34 million out in dividends and were more than happy to spend no money on Ten Hag despite losing 4-0 to Brentford, and then Jim Ratcliffe goes public. That is the type of people they are. Remember, they were the ringleaders behind the Super League. Every top 6 side was involved in the Super League, but who was the ringleaders behind it? The Glazers. And what did the Glazers do when the Super League debacle went on? They fought fuck. The Glazers sat there, they fought fuck. The Glazers thought, what can we do that's going to distract the fans from the Super League? You know, the Super League was our closest chance of getting the Glazers out, 100%. And the Glazers sat there and thought, shit. What can we do to distract the fans? We fucked up with the Super League. The protests are going crazy. What did the Glazers do? They sacked Ed Woodward. That's what they did, because the Glazers knew the one thing they could do that would boost a massive morale in the fan base and absolutely save their asses, their PR, because the Glazer out protest was getting to them. Sponsors are pulling out. We were causing, when the Super League happened, we were causing so many issues with the protests. So many issues we were causing with them protests. And the Glazers realised, fuck, these protests cost us financially, sponsors dropping out and all of that. So what did the Glazers do after the Super League? Because the Glazers should have been gone during the Super League, because they weren't involved in the Super League. They were the people trying to create the Super League. But what did the Glazers do, guys? they sacked Woodward, which was the right decision 100%. But why do you think they sacked Woodward? Because they wanted to sack Woodward, their little puppet, or because they thought that is the only thing we can do that will boost the fans? Because we all celebrated Woodward sacking like a party, and then remember the people replacing Woodward aren't exactly going to be much better because we didn't bring anyone new. And the worst part about sacking Woodward was the Glazers had this master plan. They knew they were going to sack Woodward, but they just knew that Arnold was going to do that job and MURTOUGH was going to do that job. They didn't bring anyone new in. Arnold and MURTOUGH have always been in United. They sacked Woodward and just kept the same people and just got them to do a different role. You know, if they'd have sacked Woodward and brought in someone absolutely brilliant, top sporting director like Campos to do all of this and all of that, brilliant. But they sacked Woodward purely and utterly because they thought we need to distract the fans off our back and give them something to cheer about. They then went and brought Varane and Sancho because they realised the protests were getting very close to getting them out. And I'd say what you want about Ed Woodward, absolute cunt face, but I'll tell you this about Ed Woodward. He was thrown under the bus by the Glazers, in fact, because Ed Woodward needed to go. Ed Woodward was a disgrace, and Ed Woodward was their puppet. But Ed Woodward had done everything for the Glazers. Ed Woodward was the Glazers' puppet. And as soon as pressure went on the Glazers, they went and put all the blame on Woodward. They went and blamed it all on Woodward. And you know what? Woodward was to blame, but so were the Glazers, and because they like to divert blame. And you know what? I'm glad Woodward's gone, but they played us. They played us with the Super League because we were so close to getting them out with the Super League, I believe. I generally believe if there was an actual buyer who wanted to buy United and put in a bid during the Super League, we could have got them out. And I think that is why they had to sack Woodward as a last-minute resort to distract the fans. Because at the end of the day, they just replaced Woodward with another Woodward with one maybe a tiny bit better because he's looked at Woodward's mistakes and gone, I don't want to repeat the mistakes Woodward made, but I'm just as bad as Woodward, but at least I can learn from his mistakes. And this is why they need to go. And this is why Jim Ratcliffe wants to buy United. He's got the money. But this is why, even if we spend money, we start winning games, things get positive. We need to be Glazers out because we will never be a top club under the Glazer ownership. We will never be where City and Liverpool are under the Glazer ownership. And it kills me to say that, but we will never be there. We will never be there under Glazer ownership. Ten Hag, he will not succeed under the Glazer ownership. I love Erik ten Hag. I absolutely love Erik ten Hag to pieces. But I don't think he'll be here in 3 years unless something changes with the board, unless something changes with the ownership, because we absolutely are we're killing him. We kill every single manager's career, and that, guys, is an actual fact as well. Woodward made the deal. Woodward made the deal. Woodward was awful. I'm glad that he's gone. Hashtag Glazers out, as Daniel said as well. He said, Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, all good people. Andrew said the Super League's going to make a comeback. Liz Truss now backtracked against regulations on owners in football, corporate people. Honestly, I don't pay attention to that government shit because they're all rubbish. But I am worried. I am worried that, the governments in England, if I was Prime Minister of the UK, I'll tell you this now, my priority, I won't lie, it will be getting the fucking Glazers out, and then we'd attend to everyone else in the country. But no, I'm joking. But I think the governments, and we tried to do a petition, didn't we? But I think the governments in the UK need to put something on the UK football clubs where rich American owners can't take advantage of them. I think there needs to be a law about taking a certain amount of dividends out, or a dividends cap of 10 million across 5 years, because they won't like that. They won't like that at all. There needs to, because I tell you this now, and there is rumours and reports. This is all hypothetical. This is rumours and reports, but this could get the cases out. This is massive. There are certain governing bodies in football, financial bodies in football, that actually are trying to, and I think it's called the MUFC group, actually have made a statement on dividends, and they said that dividends should only be paid when there is both financial success and success on the field. Why not scrap it? These shouldn't be paying themselves any dividends. There are people out there that want to make a law in football about owners not being able to pay out dividends. That's what they want to do. They want to make a thing. If you own a football club, you cannot pay out dividends. Now, we would need Lizzie Trust, whatever she's called, government, that's her name, right? We'd need her to do something. We'd need the football and governing bodies to do something. But that would get the Glazers out. If they went and told the Glazers, new rule, if you want to own an English football club, you can't take out dividends, that would get them gone. I think that would. I'm not a financial governing body expert. I don't know how it works. I'll be honest, I don't. But I know if they can find a way, and there's a lot of talk about certain people high up in football want to stop owners taking out dividends and make it more about football and less about finance and corruption, that would get them out. So hopefully that is an idea that's proposed in the next 5 years. But I see it going, and I'll be honest, football's too much money. Football's too much power. I generally believe that we'll just have another Super League in the next 10 years. It will be more Americanized. I mean, they were already talking about half an hour half time breaks. We don't want a fucking half an hour half time break. We want 15 minutes at half time. That is what we want. Do you know why we want 15 minutes half time? Because we're not interested in having some American cheerleaders and some crap act singing in the middle of a football game. We just want to watch the boys play. They're just trying to make as much money as they can. And, you know, they're trying to Americanize football. And I'm not one of those naive Gary Neville that goes, oh, if you're an American owner, you can't be a good owner. Ha, ha, ha. No. Todd Boehly, had these ideas about North versus South All-Stars 11. It was quite cool. There's a big difference between Boehly, whatever he's called, and the Glazers. They both want to make money, but the Glazers will happily make money even if it ruined English football, even if it ruined the pyramid of English football. The Glazers knew this. And bear in mind, the Glazers weren't part of the Super League. The Glazers were the people behind it. It was the Glazers' idea. Abramovich, Sheikh Mansour, Kroenke, they just joined because they saw a good financial opportunity, but it wasn't their idea. They weren't behind it. The Glazers were. And Joe and Avram sat there, and they probably sat and went, this is going to fuck over the Leicester Cities, the West Hams, all the teams in the Premier League. They sat there and thought, this is going to fuck over so many teams in the Premier League. Because if you have a Super League and the Big Six come out of the Premier League finance is gone. Every single club in the Premier League goes pretty much debt because not many people are going to watch it. It becomes the Championship, or really, if you think about it. So it won't make anywhere near as much money. It won't be competitive. People will lose jobs because of the lack of money. The league just goes. It really affects the footballing league, and it just becomes a place where you can only compete if you have money, and it's not fair. And the Glazers are willing to absolutely ruin English football for their own financial gain. As Daniel said, guys, please do smash that like button, and of course subscribe down below if you're new as well, and share the video as well. We won't kill Ten Hag for the win vibes. I love Ten Hag, but I just worried that the Glazers will end up just absolutely throwing them under the bus and causing issues like they have with every manager. I sit here and think Ten Hag's a fantastic manager and that we're going to win stuff under Ten Hag, but I just know with every single manager Man United brought in, they've absolutely fluffed them. And I want to talk about this actually. Sir Alex Ferguson. Did you know 90% of the players that were key to Sir Alex Ferguson's last title win in 2013 before he retired were brought before the Glazers came? If you actually look at the transfer window Sir Alex had under Glazer ownership, they were fucking crap. And if you actually look at the team Sir Alex won the Premier League with, Cleverley and Anderson in midfield, crap. That team absolutely bottled the next season under Moisey. Alex Ferguson was an absolutely extreme manager. And he won the league with a not very great team. If I'm being honest, I think that 2013 Man United winning side, maybe up there with Leicester, as probably the weakest 11 to actually win the Premier League. But Mr. Sir Alex, he was the guy. And I always think, Sir Alex was a brilliant manager. He was absolutely brilliant manager. But was he really backed that well by the Glazers? Obviously, Robin Van Persie, massive one. I think Rio, Vidic, Ronaldo, Rooney, the core. So the best years of my lifetime at United was before the Glazer ownership, or players that came in before the Glazers. I just think, the Glazers gave Fergie some shit transfer windows. Absolutely. The Glazers will give Ten Hag some shit transfer windows. And when you're in a rebuild, you need to back your manager every single transfer window. Look at the money City spend. Look at the money Liverpool spend. Even Arsenal, who don't spend as much money as us, they've got a model in there. But the Glazers, it's almost like let's give them a few players, shut up the fans, and go back to doing our thing. Few players, shut up the fans, go back to doing our thing. The Glazers aren't thinking long term. They don't have a sustainable plan, and I'm worried. And I love Ten Hag, and I think he will be here a few years. But I generally say this, and this is not personal to Ten Hag. I believe that we will not be successful until the Glazers go. I don't think we'll win Premier League titles. I don't think we'll win Champions League titles until the Glazers go. And as much as I love Ten Hag, and as much as I think Ten Hag is a fantastic manager, I think he needs the Glazers to go in order for him to really go out there and succeed. If I'm being all honest with you, I think he needs them Glazers gone as well. Guys, please do smash that like button if you have not already, and of course subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football. I also want to throw out there that this video is sponsored by the OneFootball app, and there is a link in the description and a link pinned in the chat to go and download the OneFootball app. It's a completely free app that keeps you up to date with all the footballing news, and if you want to know how I stay up to date on all the footballing news, it's generally because of the OneFootball app, so make sure you check it out. But let's get into our next story as well. People say Maguire needs to be sold. I do want to talk about the Maguire situation in just a second. But Tumbleweed, thank you very much for the super chat. Even if Sir Jim comes in with a bid, he would still need 2 other backers because 13.5 billion net worth is not enough. I agree. This is the problem. The Glazers will only sell United if they get a crazy amount. And Jim Ratcliffe can put a bid in United and all of that. But if he wants to make United brilliant again, you need more money, or you need the Glazers to sell for cheap. And you do make a good point there. I just think for me, as fans, we've got to focus on doing everything possible to getting the Glazers out, everything possible to cutting the Glazers' finance. I think that is what we've got to do as fans, and potentially that will be the way to then go ahead and push those little rats out. But I actually do want to get into Maguire. Someone said always knew Maguire was the leaker, and this is actually what I want to get into. Do you know what? I was thinking this. I was absolutely thinking this as well. Harry Maguire's come out. Well, Harry Maguire hasn't leaked stuff, but sources close to Harry Maguire have come out with these leaks and all of that as well. But do you know what? If this was, I can't remember who tweeted it, but imagine if Paul Pogba had said last year at United. Imagine if Paul Pogba's brother, a close source to Paul Pogba, had come out last year at United and say Paul Pogba's not good because he's got to play with McTominay and Bruno. If Paul Pogba played in Man City's midfield, he'd be the best midfielder in the world. Tell you this now for a fact: the British media would be heaving. If Paul Pogba came out and said that the reason he'd not been good is because he had to play with Bruno and McTominay, and if he was in Man City's midfield, a close source Pogba said that, the British media would come out and be fuming. You'd have your Gary Nevilles, your Talk Sports, your Sky Sports, all of them. Jamie Carragher's calling Paul Pogba a disgrace. The males would be coming out calling Paul Pogba a disgrace, calling him bad names, saying he's unprofessional, he causes problems. But when it happens to Harry Maguire, in fact, I think it was Gabby Bonhor defending him. I mean, he's an idiot. But nothing. Have you noticed we woke up today? None of the mainstream media are talking about this. None of it. Because he's English. He's a white Englishman. He is Harry Maguire. And we're going to protect him because we like him. And you know what? I do like Harry Maguire as a person. I like him on the bench as well. But I'll say this now. Harry Maguire has got one of the most dreadful fucking PR team I've ever fucking seen. Because all he's doing is causing more problems for himself. Maguire does not deserve the amount of hate he gets. 100%, he is a scapegoat. Sometimes we'll lose and he won't be the worst player, but Maguire will get the worst stick. But Maguire does not help himself. Because he comes out with shit like this. He scores a goal versus Albania and puts his fingers in his ears, shutting us up. He then goes and does an interview defending his bad form, saying even though United were in the worst period they've been in Premier League history, the worst set of results we've got in Premier League history, and our lowest points tally in Premier League history, Maguire then goes out and says, as captain of United, oh, it's not my fault. If I had been bad, I wouldn't be playing every week. I mean, Maguire, use your fucking brain. If you're playing every week and we're losing nearly every week and the same players are playing every week despite us losing every week, you have been bad because football's a team sport. There's games where individuals can cost you. But at the end of the day, football is a team sport. And if you cannot take responsibility for you not doing your role in the team, then why are you captain of United? I'll say that about Maguire. Why are you captain? And I tell you this, Maguire's PR team is shocking. Reports blaming his teammates. If Maguire had said he'd been poor because he'd struggled to adapt to Ten Hag's system and Rangnick's system and all of that, and he had an injury and he was exhausted out of the World Cup, you know what? It's an excuse, but it's fine. But what you did is you dragged down your teammates, Harry Maguire. You went and blamed De Gea. You went and blamed Varane. You went and blamed everyone but yourself. And as United captain, that is a disgrace. Your PR team is a disgrace. Your mentality is a disgrace. Take responsibility. If you've been poor, own up to it. Do not be blaming everyone else. And it absolutely infuriates me. You know, I always said this. I would absolutely love it if every Man United player would come out defending every Man United player and saying positive things. Even if Bruno was saying something negative about McTominay. If Bruno was saying, I'd be better if I didn't have McTominay behind me. I would be angry at Bruno, despite me liking Bruno. I'd be angry at Bruno for saying that, because I'd be saying, how dare you put down another teammate? It doesn't matter what Man United player you are. If you are blaming your poor form on other teammates, that is not the attitude we should want in the dressing room, especially if it's the captain of United. And the worst part of it is, if that was Paul Pogba saying that, if that was Bruno saying that, if that was any non-English player saying that, the media would be livid. The media would be going on about it. But they don't want to talk about it because it's Harry Maguire, because he gets media protection. Harry Maguire gets booed and fucking Spurs tweet stuff. And everyone comes out saying, why is Maguire being booed? And they make this big deal out of it. Paul Pogba gets booed. Oh, fans have a right to boo. It's the hypocrisy. It is the hypocrisy in the media, and it absolutely does my head in. I just don't get how you can treat Paul Pogba so different to Harry Maguire. They are footballers. I judge football players on how they perform on the pitch, and if they're chatting shit about their teammates off the pitch and putting leaks out, I'm not happy. But they've painted Paul Pogba out to be this troublesome leaker at United, and if Paul Pogba had come out, sources close to Paul Pogba had come out slating McTominay, the media would be crucifying him. But when Maguire does it, they don't want to talk about it. And it's the double standards. Paul Pogba gets booed, no one cares. Maguire gets booed, wow, that's awful. Paul Pogba and Maguire are two players I put in the same category, in the sense of they were very expensive players, so they're going to get criticism because they were expensive and they didn't live up to the price tag. Paul Pogba, if we built a midfield around him, would be a better player. Harry Maguire, if we built a defence around him, he would be a better player. They are players Man United have overpaid for and have not been good because of the unsustainability of United and haven't lived up to the price tag, which isn't their fault. But why is Paul Pogba treated so differently by the media compared to Maguire? When in fact, what has Paul Pogba even done that's that bad? A couple haircuts. It's like Paul Pogba gets a haircut and he's Satan, but Harry Maguire can get arrested in Greece and give him a sympathy interview. Now, I did feel sorry for Harry Maguire about the Greece thing, but you get my point. It's just the way they treat different players. It's something I absolutely hate about this media as well. Guys, please do smash that like button, and of course subscribe down below if you're new as well. I will never know why the Glazers were allowed to buy the club, says Gaz. Absolutely spot on. I think the government should have stopped it, and it makes me fuming as well. But I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the live chat. So sorry if I missed out a few live chats, but Pogba doesn't have the English passport, that's all. I know it's an English agenda. If you're English, you get this level of protection, and we shouldn't be doing that as well. We shouldn't be doing that. Maguire takes 10 million a year out of the club and does F4 in wages as well, 100%. And if England lose, the rest of the team was bad, but I was brilliant. This is the thing that annoys me. It's just the full-on English bias. And Maguire was dreadful under Ollie as well, although everyone was awful under Ollie. Maguire was awful. And last season, Maguire was one of our worst players. And Maguire had Ten Hag. Maguire's had a fair chance. Maguire's not like Donny, where he's never really had a chance. With players like Maguire, when you've had so many chances, you have to be criticised if you don't take their chances. What irritates me with Harry Maguire is purely the fact that Ten Hag played him over around the first 2 games of the season. Ten Hag thought, this is the player they rate so highly. This is the player the board told me to play. Remember this. And Rangnick hinted this in an interview, and I will try and find the quotes, but I know Rangnick hinted this. He said, and there's a certain thing at United where the board want you to play certain players. And Rangnick said, and when Rangnick did one of his interviews, the thing he said wasn't about having to play players, but Rangnick said there's certain players that we can't sell and we need to play and try and get the best out of, because we've paid a lot of money for them and they won't be worth that value now. And I always took that, and that's not exactly what he said, but he said something along those lines. And I always took Ralph Rangnick saying that back in April as basically Harry Maguire, they want to sell him. The managers want to sell him because he's not been good, but they can't sell him because the board is saying he cost 80 million. We're not going to get any of that price back. It's going to look embarrassing. You've got to play him, hope he finds form and make him work. And Ten Hag, he kept Maguire as captain, and he played Maguire against Brighton. He played Maguire against Brentford because of pressure from the board saying he's the 80 million signing. We've got to make him work. We don't want to sell him. It's going to embarrass the board. La-di-la-di-la-di-la-di-la. So Ten Hag played Maguire for 2 games. 2 goals conceded versus Brighton. 4 goals in the first half versus Brentford. Absolutely dreadful. And then take Maguire out for Varane. And then Maguire played a game and a half with Lisandro Martinez. And in a game and a half against Brighton and Brentford, he conceded 6 goals. Varane's played, 6 games with Martinez? You can play Liverpool, where they conceded 1 goal. Southampton and Leicester, where they conceded no goal. Arsenal, where they conceded 1 goal. And Sheriff, where they conceded no goals. Varane and Lisandro Martinez, when they've started together, have had to play 2 of the top 6 sides, Arsenal and Liverpool, with 2 of the best attacks in the league, and conceded 2 goals in 5 games. But Harry Maguire, when he played with Martinez, conceded 6 goals in 2 games, compared to 2 goals in 5 games against harder opposition. And that says to me, you are not good enough. Now, there is a player in Maguire, because we saw it in the Euros. He was good for us 2 seasons ago, but he is nowhere near the level of Varane. He is nowhere near the level he needs to be to start week in, week out for United. But he had this thing, because of his price tag and because he's captain, every manager's been put under pressure by the board to play him. And I always think that is unfair. And I always think, if Paul Pogba came under so much criticism for his price tag by the media, us fans on Twitter, we criticise Maguire. We all criticise Maguire 100%. But the media, the actual Sky Sports, the Talk Sport, they don't criticise Maguire like they criticise Pogba for not living up to his price tag as well. Maguire blaming everyone but himself was honestly one of the worst parts. If Maguire, thing is, Maguire is the most hated player at United, and I feel sorry for Maguire because he doesn't deserve all the hate he gets. But then Maguire does stupid things like this, and he just doesn't make it any easier for himself. He doesn't make it any better for himself, because Maguire literally, I think he's got to have one of the worst, if not the worst PR team in football, because he'll then go and blame everyone but himself and say, I haven't been bad, I scored a goal versus Albania. I mean, he just doesn't defend himself. Back on the topics of the Glazers as well. This is what I wanted to get into. The annual revenue at the club, controlled by the American Glazer family and listed in New York, rose 18% to $583.2 million in a year at the end of June. But the net debt, a bone of contention for the fan base, grew nearly 23% to $514 million, hurt by a weaker sterling. Manchester United also paid out $33 million in dividends. And this is actually the financial sheet for Manchester United as well. And as you can see, commercial revenue, 22% change. But if you want to look at, the net debt, 22.7% change. Last year, our debt was $419 million. I don't know if you can see this. I'm circling with my mouse. Our debt was $419.5 million last year. Our debt is now $514 million. Our debt has gone up nearly $100 million in a year. And the reason it's gone up nearly $100 million in a year is because the Glazers borrowed more money to buy Anthony and Casemiro to shush us fans. They didn't spend money on Anthony and Casemiro. They borrowed more money and put the club in more debt. So when naive people come out to you and they say, oh, why are you Glazers out? They spend loads of money on the club. Remind them, the Glazers don't spend money. They borrow money to buy players and then put the club in more debt. The club didn't have any debt before the Glazers come in. And the next thing the Glazers will be doing, and I tell you this now, expect in the next 5 years them to sell TV rights, because the Glazers do not have the finances to keep up with the Premier League. And for me, this could be something that gets the Glazers out. Because if you look at the money Newcastle is spending, if you look at the money West Ham have been spending lately, if you look at the money Aston Villa have been spending, Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, there's 8-9 teams in the Premier League that can outspend us and are willing to outspend United. Wolves, Villa have spent a lot of money. Newcastle got a lot of money, plus the top 6. In the Premier League, if you want to keep up with the other teams, you've got to go out there and you've got to spend a shit ton of money in the Premier League if you want to go out and keep up with the other teams, okay? That's what you've got to do. And the Glazers, they aren't willing to do that. So what they'll do is they're going to borrow more money and put more and more debt at the club. So we need to get them out, because they're going to keep putting debt in. And the next thing they'll do in the next 5 years, because they can't keep up, is do a Barcelona, sell our TV rights, completely ruin this club. And for me, I would say to the Glazers, if I was sat in a room right now with Joel Glazer and I said to him, look at the way football's going. I said, Joe, I'll say to Joe, imagine you're Joel Glazer. Well, don't imagine you're Joel Glazer. That would, you don't want to be that parasite. But I'm going to imagine my camera's Joel Glazer or Avram. I'd probably have to put some blindfold on, so I couldn't look at them, so too ugly. But I'd probably say, Joel, Man United is the biggest club in the world. You've had enough fun at United. You've took enough money out of it. You've got to look at the bigger picture. Newcastle are on the scene. Villa are on the scene. Wolves have got some money. West Ham have got some money. There's a lot of money in the Premier League. And these lower level clubs are willing to invest because they want to get into that big 6, break into that big 6. And we're at a point where we've gone from winning the title, top 4 guaranteed every year, to can we get top 4 or not? We will get to a point of can we get top 6 or not? And we will get to the point of being a mid-table club unless you invest significantly. But the only way you're going to invest is putting more debt in the club. How about now you think, okay, you know, I don't have the finances to put United where they want to be. There's someone like Jim Ratcliffe that does. You've had enough time at the club. You took enough money out. Football's changed. You can't do this anymore. You know, there's going to be protests. It's going to bite you in the arse. Let Jim Ratcliffe come over. He'd probably say, what the fuck are you talking about? £34 million in dividends this year. My arse, I want my £34 million a year out of Man United. But, I mean, that's probably what I'd say as well. Glazer's out in the chat, of course, as well. And thank you very much for the super tube. Maguire's just a bad apple that needs to go. I do start to think that. I don't think Maguire's bad in the changing room or dressing room, because I don't think all the managers would rate him, like Southgate, Ole and all of that, if he was bad. But I just think Maguire's mentality is just not a captain mentality. And I think Maguire is too affected by joining United, too affected by what people say in the press of his price tag, if I'm being honest. And I think it would be best for Maguire to cut ties with United, because I think you get the best out of Harry Maguire if he did leave United, because I just think it's gone for him. I don't think he's getting an over Varane. I think Maguire's days at United are very much over as well. Pogba didn't help himself either. He let his agent run wild for years, routinely fueled exit rumours on France duty, and one summer flat out said he wanted to leave. Exactly. Pogba's not innocent, but it's how they're treated different as well. But yeah, keep smashing the like button, guys, and do subscribe down below if you're new, by the way, because I do go live every single evening on the channel, keeping you guys up to date with all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, updates, and more. So do make sure you're subscribed as well. What's with Ten Hag and Glazers now? I'm worried. Well, basically, the Glazers, what the main topic of this video related to the title and all of that is, will Ten Hag last at United? Because with the way the Glazers are acting, it looks like Ten Hag's not going to last long at United, because the Glazers are taking more and more out in dividends, putting more debt on the club. We're basically talking about in this video, could Ten Hag survive under the Glazers? Will Ten Hag be able to win under the Glazers, which no manager can seem to do? It seems that every manager that comes in under the Glazers is destined to leave. And the real question is, Ten Hag wants money in January. Ten Hag wants players in January, and you've already got your little old John Murtoughs coming out basically saying, oh, United's was focusing on the summer. You know, they're already saying to Ten Hag, no, let's not spend in January, let's focus on the summer. And I think, you know, Ten Hag's a fantastic manager, but with the way the structure of this club is, the fact that they're willing to throw him under the bus, and the only reason they didn't in his first summer was because of Jim Ratcliffe, says to me that I don't think Ten Hag, as brilliant as he is going to last much longer at United unless the Glazers change something, or unless we get a change in ownership, because I just think that they're awful as well. But 120 likes away from 300 likes, guys. So please do smash that like button as well. The Glazers will be gone in 2 years, says Gahan. Their football structure does not work anymore. Football keeps changing and they can't afford to keep it. They have to go and give it up now. If they don't, we will. I mean, hopefully that's the case, and that's a good way of thinking about it. But I just think they're going to be here rinsing us out of money as much as possible. Alex B says the cost of competing at the top, you have to basically operate at a financial loss. Doesn't work with the owners trying to make money off the club. Exactly. 100% as well. And Alice, if we have another huge loss this season, we could be in trouble with FFP rules and might be able to spend any real transfers. Man United are never going to have trouble with FFP rules, because United do not spend any money that the club don't generate. Man City do. Man City lie. Do you know what's annoying about FFP is Man City literally lie about fake sponsorships, fake ownership, and fake money coming into the club, so they can get away with breaking the rules. And they get away with it because they've just got money and the lawyers and all of that. And football is so corrupt. If you've got money, you can do what you want in football. You can get away with anything in football if you get the money. I'll tell you this now. Does anyone know what the Glazers paid for United? I think they bought it off the stock exchange. They kind of borrowed money to buy it and then put the money they borrowed in debt on the club. That's the worst thing. And of course, Glazer's out as well. But yeah, I sincerely hope Ten Hag has the patience with the club until the Glazers are overthrown, maybe 2-3 years. Yeah, look, I love Ten Hag. I think he's brilliant, but I don't think Ten Hag will last long under Glazer ownership, because they're ultimately going to throw him under the bus as well. Ten Hag's not a loser. He's not going anywhere. He'll stay to fight. We need to buy in Jan to push for top 4. I agree. Ten Hag will stay and fight, but will the board give him what he wants as well? Unbelievable 600 million they could sell for 4 billion as well. And honestly, Glazers are too arrogant to sell. That's as Daniel said it. And we spoke about this in a live stream not that long ago. Sources close to the Glazers came out and said, well, the Glazers have no emotional attachment to United. So, you know, if an offer came along that's is a good business offer, they would sell. But the Glazers love owning Man United because it's easy money they can take out every year as well. The Glazers absolutely love Man United. And And that is the big problem as well. And you obviously all the expenses are coming out, and I won't dive too much into it because we've spoken a lot about the Glazer and the expenses and all of that. But I mean, this is an interesting one from Kieran Maguire, not Harry Maguire's brother though. He said, since the club was bought in 2005, Manchester United has made an overall pre-tax loss of 320 million, but paid out dividends to shareholders of 132 million. So 132 million. Bear in mind, 34 of that's been in the last year, after a COVID year where so much money was lost after the Super League debacle. But we've paid out 132 million unnecessary money. I'll tell you what, since 2005, United have paid out 132 million in dividends to the Glazers. How much have Arsenal, Spurs, Chelsea, Man City, and Liverpool paid out in dividends since 2005? I'll tell you this, zero. That's what I'll tell you, zero. So remember that as well. And obviously these are the statistics. Man United's report net loss. It's just, you look at that and it makes your blood boil. Like, this is our club. This is the club we love. And them little ratty bastard ponytails sitting in Tampa Bay, Florida, absolutely ruining it for us. Absolutely. And they need to go because Ten Hag is the manager we need. But we need to bat Ten Hag and he'll succeed. And they don't want to bat Ten Hag. They're even not talking about January. And actually, I want to show you something, guys. I want to show you a cool statistic. United actually have the highest... Oh my God, the camera's gone all fuzzy. What is this shitty camera doing? Here's the Man United have the highest wage bill in the Premier League. Let me stare at my camera because, my God, it's gone all blurry. Man United have the highest wage bill in the Premier League. Are United top of the Premier League? No. And I think the fact that we have the highest wage bill in the Premier League, despite being top of the Premier League, says to me, that's because we're not good in the transfer market. That's because we're not good at business. And, unfortunately, the Glazers won't even change the structure of the board that's created this mess. We're on 201 likes, guys. Can we push for 300 likes? Please do hit that like button if you have not already. Let's see if we can get 300 likes. And, of course, please do subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football if you're new. If you're new and you want to stay up to date with all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, updates and more, please do go ahead and subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football. I go live every single evening, keeping you up to date on all the latest United news and more. And if you don't want to miss out on that, do subscribe because we've got Glazer out updates, we've got transfer news updates, we've got watch-alongs, match reactions, match previews, everything you need to know every day. Man United content. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel as well. And Dennis, I think Marcus Rashford and Anthony will both be amazing under Ten Hag. Yeah, might take them some time to settle in on Anthony's case, but I do agree. And even if United don't spend in January, get scouts out there and plan for the summer so we can get players quickly. Reportedly, United are planning for the summer, but I just don't buy into it at all. And look how much money we are paying servicing the debt each year. And the bigger the debt gets, the more limiting that becomes, says Alex B. Absolutely spot on. And please do subscribe down below, guys, if you're new. It will mean a lot if you do hit that subscribe button as well. Is the screen still blurry or has it sorted itself out, guys? What is the screen looking like? Now, I do want to get into what Richard Arnold and John Murtough said about United, but I want to get this up on my screen here. I want to show you what Mr. John fucking Murtough has come out and said. So, John Murtough came out and said, actually, see if I can find the United plug one, because no, they didn't, because I'm pretty sure they actually quoted it. But John Murtough came out and said, overall, we are ahead of schedule in our recruitment plans as envisioned at the start of the summer. And we do not anticipate the same level of activity in future windows. As always, our planning focuses on the summer window. So John Murtough has come out publicly today and said, we are all planning for the summer. We're all ahead of schedule planning for the summer. But he's also said, this summer is not going to be as busy as last summer. We do not anticipate to spend as much money as we did last summer for future summers, and we're focused on the summer window. John Murtough's thought, fuck the 30 days we have in January to buy players. No, and John Murtough's basically come out and said, after basically the day we find out the Glazers have taken 34 million out in dividends, Mr. Murtough comes out and saying, basically, don't expect us to spend the same amount of money we did last summer, next summer, and don't expect us to spend in January. That is basically what he's saying. So Ten Hag being thrown under the bus yet again. And it just is an absolute disgrace. They need to go. I will emphasise this every single time I talk about the Glazers. They need to go. Because we're talking about already, we're in fucking September. No money in January. less money next September. That's really what it means when you think about it. He's saying, you know, we don't think that we're going to spend as much as the last transfer window, and he's talking about the summer. He's not mentioned January 1, but he skipped those 30 days out. I think that the people at United, because they're thick, almost forget that actually the January transfer window exists so you can spend money in January. But the people at Manchester United, oh, what? You can spend money in January? Oh, I didn't know that. Spastics. Honestly, the people are bored higher. Murtough's just a Glazer puff piece. He has no idea what's going on. I agree. Is it still blurred? Is the whole screen blurred, or is it just my face bit? What is the screen like as well? Because I don't know why it's blurry, but it just is as well. And can Man United be surprised team of football? Most fans outside the Premier League would hope so. It does need a strong Man United, of course it does. I just hope that United get back to the best, and you know we go and win a shit ton of games this season as well. But look, guys, Glazers paid around $790 million for United. Big up Tumble with the stats. But look, guys, I am going to end the live stream here. Glazers were never good for the club, but at least their father who brought the club was somewhat more focused on success. His children are pure bloodsuckers, says Alex B. And I think you're spot on. I think they're all bastards. But since he died, it's gone even worse as well. But look, guys, big up everybody for tuning into the stream and all of that as well. I am going to end the live stream here, but I will be back live tomorrow night. So make sure you subscribe for that. So make sure you subscribe with post notification bell on so you can go and join my live stream tomorrow night. Please do smash the like button on the way out. Subscribe down below if you're new, because there will be a video out tomorrow morning. Well, hopefully, if I can get it edited in time, but there also will be a live stream tomorrow night. So do subscribe for that. Share the video. Bish, bash, bosh. Thanks everyone for tuning in. See you next time. Bye. Oh, no, and bye.